In a world where people look for the best deals on everything, the lowest interest rate possible is always a major factor in making purchases. Well, today we're going to flip that on its head. And I'll explain why the upcoming interest rate hike this month could actually help you increase your savings and stabilize the prices that you see at the grocery store, at the gas pump, and in your heating costs. Let's get into it. Inflation just hit a 40-year high. On a simple level, inflation makes everything more expensive by devaluing our dollar. Here's an example. Imagine I've got 100 grand right here. I worked hard, saved up, and put it in a savings account. But if the inflation rate is 10%, that means that 1 year from now, my 100 grand is gonna be worth 90 grand. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened to fuel, heating costs, and groceries. In a recent video I made about inflation, I showed that in the last 12 months, milk is up over 50 cents a gallon, propane is up over 80 cents a gallon, and gas is up over $1 per gallon. Whenever I fill up my gas tank, I wonder, where is the end to this insane inflation? Because it's been hitting us where it hurts, the necessary expenses that we have no control over. Enter the Federal Reserve. There's a couple of ways that inflation can be slowed down. And the Federal Reserve changing interest rates is one of the most hands-on ways. If you follow the news, you've heard about the upcoming rate hike. On a simple level, it seems like the Federal Reserve raises rates, and suddenly the cost of living increases because interest rates are up. Feels like a swift kick in the mouth when inflation is rising and interest rates get hiked as well. But here's the actual kicker. Raising interest rates actually causes the economy to slow down, which is what we need to cool inflation and make that trip to the grocery store a little less painful. Anything we can do to reduce the cost of chocolate milk, right? I like the way that Forbes explained the reason for inflation. Elevated inflation has been driven by supply chain disruptions and pent-up consumer demand for goods following the reopening of the economy in 2021. I'm an engineer, so let's reverse engineer this. Because much of our country is driven by interest rates and what can be financed, inflation can be curbed by increasing interest rates. That makes borrowing money more expensive for individuals and businesses, which in turn decreases consumer demand because things are more expensive to purchase over time. And as we learned in microeconomics, when there's less demand, it actually forces prices down to account for the supply. And like that, inflation decreases and chocolate milk prices go down to where we're used to them being. Now, that's an oversimplified example of what's going on. There's so many variables contributing to the condition of our economy, but the goal of the Fed raising rates is to positively impact a part of it at least. Unfortunately, the impact will be seen very slowly, mostly because the Fed will likely raise rates a quarter to a half to maybe 1%. But I mean, it has to happen slowly because there are consequences to doing it too quickly. In the words of CNBC, if the Fed raises rates too quickly or by too much, this could lead to a higher unemployment rate if businesses stop hiring or even lay off workers to stay afloat. If the Fed really overshoots rate hikes, it could even push the economy back into a recession, halting and reversing the progress it has made so far. There's a fine balance between helping and hurting the economy. And I use this term loosely, but it kind of goes to show how relatively fragile our economy is. I mean, look at what the supply chain did. Let's cut to our resident supply chain expert, my wife, Bailey. Bailey, working in logistics, tell us about how much of a pain the supply chain has been on the working people.
Ooh, real pain.
And what's been the impact on prices and the ability to get trucking when you need it?
Real bad.
Straight from the source, it's dicey out there, folks. Here's the thing, raising rates will affect almost every financial area of our lives. Some bad, some good. So the housing market is hot right now. Everyone wants a house. Forbes did a quick look at how rates would affect the purchase of a house, and this is what they found. In an example where you've got a family purchasing a $300,000 house on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage where the interest rate is 3.5%, that would cost $185,000 in interest alone over the life of that mortgage. This is where the mortgage payment would be $1,340 per month. Now, if we raise the rates 1%, which probably won't happen in March, but might happen cumulatively across all of 2022, if we took that same family where they're purchasing a $300,000 house where the mortgage rate is 4.5% instead of 3.5%, then the total interest across the life of that loan would be $247,000. And their monthly mortgage payment would be $180 more at $1,520. That is a huge impact on the price of the house, not just from month to month, but across the whole life of the loan. That's $62,000 more in interest by just increasing the interest rate by 1%. And at 4.5%, that's just $53,000 short of paying for the house twice over. Now, within the stock market, it may cause stock values to rise at a lower rate because higher interest rates cost companies more money, which lowers their stock price, which will likely impact investment and retirement accounts negatively, especially if it happens to a lot of companies. Here's the good news about raised rates. Number one, as I've already mentioned, it should slow inflation. As of January, our inflation rate for the last 12 months was 7.5%. That's almost 2 points higher than the Great Recession of 2008. Lower inflation is going to help everyone, especially low-income workers. It'll affect workers negatively right off the bat because it'll cause higher housing and financing costs. But once it kicks in, lower inflation will keep our dollar from eroding as as much in value. Number 2, it should help with our supply chain woes. If things cost more, consumer demand decreases and hopefully the supply chain can catch up with the demand a bit. Houses get more expensive to build, fewer people need lumber, and then finally Caleb can build some stuff without having to cash out his 401k just to buy a 2x4. Kidding, but seriously, since the beginning of 2020, lumber is dumb. Number 3, it'll likely raise rates on high interest savings accounts as well. This is a big one for those people who want to increase their savings. Most high yield savings accounts right now are at about 0.3 to 0.4% APY. But back in 2020, before the stock market took a plunge, our Discover savings account was at 2% APY. That was very nice. So here's where I fulfill my promise to tell you how all this could stabilize your finances if you take some action. Hey, what are you doing? You're in my shot now. I'm filming. You never come over here. Oh, he thinks that we're playing something. Oh gosh. I've got 4 suggestions you can apply to your life related to the rate hike. Now keep in mind, I may be a financial coach, but I'm not a financial advisor. These are just my recommendations for you, but you should do your own research based on your situation. Number 1, don't make any rash purchasing decisions just because interest rates are low. I understand the strategic sense, but if you choose to purchase a house or a car just because you can save more on interest, you may make a decision you'll regret later. Number 2, pay off those credit cards pronto. Unlike most home, car, and personal loans, credit cards do not necessarily have a fixed interest rate. And as you're paying for things with credit cards, you'll be paying higher interest rates as interest rates hike. And in a similar way, if you've got a variable rate on your home loan, maybe right now is a good time to actually get that refinanced. Number 3, don't take money out of the stock market just because it's low or because interest rates could hurt stock growth. What I recommend is consistent investing. Take the emotion out of investing by doing it regardless of what's going on in the market. Don't be taking money out and putting it back in just based on how you feel. Emotional financial decisions are seldom good. Number 4, actually increase your savings. With interest rates going up, high yield savings accounts are more enticing. So especially if you have an emergency fund or if you're just preparing for the future, increase your savings and put it in a high yield savings account to take advantage of those higher interest rates. Raising rates is not a fun thing to think about, but it is helpful in understanding how it's going to affect your personal finances. If you found some value in this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you hit the like button. That really helps my channel by spreading this video to others. Now, if you have any suggestions about how to handle your money through the raising rates, then leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you, and not only would it help me, but it would also help anyone else who reads through the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Now, if you're interested in learning more about inflation and how to fight it, then check out this video up here. And if you want to figure out if buying the dip is what you should be doing right now while the market is down, then check out this video down here. Thanks for watching. This is way harder to bite into than I was expecting.